Thursday, just past 9:30, could mean several things, but it does mean thinkingrealestate.com.
And we have some shout-outs today. I was at the Y the other night and saw
Shouldn't I, formally introduce you?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Lori Dwyer-Schlecke, Bill Schlecke,
I thought
Jackie Dawson.
Everybody's listening. They know us by now. We're a staple, just like you are.
Well, we go around the world, so there's new listeners
That's right. I forgot. I apologize.
beaming in at all times.
I apologize.
And Laura couldn't help but jump in anyway.
Well, it's fine.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
So
you,
it's all about.
and you have a new listener because he didn't even know we were on the radio show. That's Rick Hitt. And Rick better be listening this morning.
Rick Hitt.
Yeah, he's headed to Sun City West on Friday to caddy for Elaine Crosby in the LPGA tournament going on out there.
Great.
But anyway, hello, Rick.
And Tom Levy listens. He says he has us on your show. He has this station on all day, the shop. Piping in, I think, to
He's a
everywhere.
very, very intelligent person.
I think intelligence runs in that family.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Well, I thought, I saw an article on 7 life transitions families should financially prepare for. Right? So I thought, how does that apply to real estate? And so I thought I'd take each topic and see. So the first one was financial disaster, and we're coming out of a tough economy. Agree?
Yeah.
I gotta tell you, usually it's cold in here, but today it's like
you should have been here 15
hot.
minutes ago.
That's like a sun.
It was like an ice cube.
I could almost not breathe, but
I'm
anyhow.
just getting feeling back in my feet. The heat kicked on about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, we're taking up donations for an electric heater for Greg. Anyhow, so it talks about, so I as far as real estate goes, let's talk about financial disasters. How do you recover from a financial disaster? So many people lost their homes through foreclosure or short selling, even their businesses closed or their commercial properties.
Well, wait until we hit March 1st.
But what happens March 1st?
Well, we fall over the fiscal cliff again.
Oh, the cliff.
And there will be hundreds of thousands of people losing their jobs. The military cutbacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, well, that will certainly be a financial disaster.
Well, it will be.
Yeah.
It will be an absolute
And so
debacle.
how do people prepare? I mean, you don't want to lose your home.
Yeah.
Well, it's look, you want a slightly different view. It's not a cliff. I mean, you're not going to see an impact immediately, but look, Congress, in fact, is going to work out something, despite all of the controversy, despite all of the perceived animosity. Everybody has an interest in making certain that we don't go off of this fiscal cliff.
Right.
So something will happen to forestall it.
You would think so.
Yeah. And it affects people disparately. They're not all affected in the same way by virtue of what is going to happen. The sequestration, I'm trying to think of the exact term that's being used, but when those automatic cuts take effect. But look, government has to work within its means. They're working toward that. I think everybody's got an interest in solving the problem. But anyway,
I thought they could just raise this debt ceiling to work within their means.
Go back to what you want to talk about today. Let's not get sidetracked.
So right now there's the tax credit. Oh, and I printed it. Tanya Neal is sending me a weekly update on that availability of money, and I forgot to bring it, but we started with $15 million the very 1st of January, and we're at $10.8 million left, which isn't much different from last week, but it will go fast. So why I mention that is there are people who went through bankruptcy or short sales, and they should know when they can requalify. So I have a list. If you filed for bankruptcy, if you want a conventional mortgage, Chapter 7, you can apply for a new mortgage at the 4-year anniversary of your dismissal of
These are
bankruptcy.
FHA guidelines, by the way, Laura, you're talking about. This is in order to
Well, this is
qualify.
FHA.
Okay.
This is conventional. But you can qualify for a mortgage 4 years after your dismissal. And since you're an attorney, can you tell me what that means after the dismissal? Because I've never gone through bankruptcy.
after the discharge, it's actually a discharge in bankruptcy. If you go through bankruptcy, if you are successful in going through either Chapter 7 or Chapter 11, or into this
Chapter
individual...
13.
Let me finish. Chapter 13, which is a wage earner's plan. Chapter 11 is a plan for businesses. Chapter 7 is outright bankruptcy liquidation. When you emerge from bankruptcy, you get a discharge. That's the date that they're saying is 4 years later you'll be able to qualify for a mortgage, after the discharge in bankruptcy.
Okay. And so with a Chapter 13 on a conventional mortgage, it's 2 years after the discharge date or 4 years from your dismissal. So they're saying there's two differences between
Yeah,
a discharge and a dismissal.
Has it always been 4 years?
No, these are FHA guidelines. This is
Oh,
not, these are
that's not anything set in stone?
No, these are as a result of the real estate meltdown beginning in 2007, 2008, and so FHA has developed these guidelines simply because so many people have experienced economic distress in foreclosures, short sales, bankruptcies, etc. Dismissal, and I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, don't pretend to be a bankruptcy lawyer, but the dismissal I think they're talking about is if you're in bankruptcy, it gets dismissed, no discharge gets issued because there's no liquidation. Again, I don't know, maybe there's a bankruptcy lawyer who's listening who can explain the difference between dismissal and discharge. And had you let me know what we were talking about today, previous to this particular show, I probably could have looked it up for you, but you surprised me.
Well, if you
with
were
that
Mark,
question.
like, Mark used to always have his computer there.
I don't have my computer here.
Well, anyhow, we do have a bankruptcy attorney in our building, Babbitt, William Babbitt, so you can call him. And their FHA guidelines for foreclosure, for bankruptcy, it's Chapter 7 is 2 years from discharge. Chapter 13 does not have a discharge, but all payments have been documented and on time, as well as the trustee or court will have to be approved entering into another mortgage.
I have no idea what you just said.
Chapter 13. Well, you have to
Well,
prove you...
let me help you out. Chapter 13 is a wage earner's plan where you agree to pay off a portion of the obligation. And I think what you're saying, Laura, is that FHA says if you have met those payments for whatever the period of time is called in the wage earner's plan, then after that you'll be able to qualify. And I can't remember, would you say 2 years or 4
Well,
years?
it didn't specify. It will be up to FHA at that time, I guess.
Look, the conventional wisdom is anyway, you go through Chapter 7 bankruptcy, sometimes your credit improves, not necessarily for getting a mortgage, but for other obligations, because the new creditors don't have to worry about all of the payments that you had before because they're now gone. Bankruptcy actually does provide for a fresh start for individuals who have found themselves in very, very difficult economic straits.
And if you're going through bankruptcy, can you exclude, let's say you're going through a Chapter 7 for complete liquidation, can you exclude your house payment from that?
You're asking a bankruptcy question.
Okay.
I can't answer it.
All right.
Then you
All right,
gotta-
well, if you
hold on,
went
hold
through
on, hold on,
foreclosure-
let me finish something, okay? What I say, I'm not a bankruptcy lawyer, but there's a distinction between secured obligations and unsecured obligations. If you're a secured creditor, in this case you're a mortgage holder, you have priority, you have a lien against the property, and typically what will happen is the mortgagee will seek to have that asset and that loan removed from the bankruptcy, and that is typically done. So what gets discharged in bankruptcy are unsecured creditor claims, not mortgage claims.
Okay. All right, so if you went through foreclosure of your home, which 2006 is when we started recording houses that were foreclosed within our multiple listing service. So height of the market was 2005, 2006 it started going down. People were selling their houses for less than what they sold, for less than what they bought them for. So foreclosure was starting in that period of time. If you want a conventional mortgage, you will have to wait 7 years from the date of the sheriff's sale deed date.
Okay?
Okay. FHA,
So you want to know when the sheriff's deed is issued?
Sure.
It's issued at the time of the foreclosure sale. They have to advertise the sale. For sale at the county building, the sale is held, sheriff's deed is issued. That's the date on which the period starts to run. However, please understand that once a sheriff's deed is issued, the borrower and anyone else who holds an interest in the property, such as a second mortgagee, has the ability to redeem the property from a foreclosure sale. Typical period of redemption is 6 months, although it can vary from as short as 1 month if the property is abandoned to, in some circumstances, 1 year.
Okay. So the sheriff's deed date is when they're at the court
That's
step,
it.
not
Courthouse
when they get
steps,
possession.
then whoever is a successful bidder at the sheriff's sale gets the sheriff's deed. But it's subject to the right of redemption.
Okay, so conventional is 7 years from that date. FHA is 3 years from that date if you want to qualify for an FHA mortgage. Deed in lieu. Tell me what a deed in lieu is.
Deed in lieu is where the borrower says, hey, look, I don't want the mortgagee to go through the hassle of the foreclosure. I'm willing to simply deed the property back to the lender. The lender has to agree to accept the deed. You can't simply have a lawyer draw up the deed in favor of the lender and the borrower then gives it to the lender and says, sayonara. That's not the way it works. You have to cut the deal with the lender where the lender agrees to accept the deed in lieu. They will not necessarily accept the deed in lieu in several circumstances. One is if there's a junior lien, a second mortgage, they won't take it. Second, if they perceive that the borrower has additional assets, they won't accept the deed in lieu without some agreement with the borrower that the borrower will pay an additional amount above and beyond what the value of the property is.
Okay. So if you're getting a conventional mortgage after giving a deed in lieu, you'll have to wait 4 years from the date that the deed was recorded. FHA is 3 years. Short sale. Short sale is, tell us what a short sale is.
Yeah, short sale is simply selling the property for less than what's owed on the mortgage. The lender has to agree to the short sale. The lender will work out terms with the borrower such that the lender will release its lien on the property, but the borrower still may have to pay something, typically on an unsecured note, to cover all or a portion of the deficiency between the amount that's owed and the net amount that is realized from the short sale.
And that's happening more today than it did in the past, from what we're seeing. Is that right, Jackie? Depends on the income level of the individual.
Well, you want a lawyer's take on it?
Sure.
Getting more difficult to do short sales simply because lenders perceive that there's a value to the property as a result of the increase in market. We're finding workouts are much, much more difficult over the last 6, 9, 12 months as a result of the increase in value of real estate. It's sort of, it's odd.
Unless you're a Supreme Court justice.
Michigan Supreme, former Michigan Supreme
Former,
Court
that's
justice.
right.
Yeah.
Still
that's
free
all,
housing, maybe.
That's a whole different story. But yeah, the fact that the mortgage, or the fact that the real estate market is increasing, that there's more activity and values are now starting to rise instead of going down. The banks are more difficult to deal with because they perceive an opportunity themselves to make more money as a result of that increase. So doing short sales, doing deeds in lieu, doing workouts of any kind have become much more problematic over the last, as I say, 9 to 12 months. It's too bad, too, because we find a lot of borrowers who are in great need of the willingness of lenders to do the workouts. And again, I can name some of the lenders who are the most difficult. I can name some that are easier. Typically, you're better off with a local lender, a smaller lender. They're more apt to do a workout for you.
So if you're going for a conventional mortgage after a short sale, the wait is 2 years from the date the debt is paid off, and you'll need 20% down. If you if you only can do 10% down, you're going to have to wait 4 years.
Yeah, when you say the debt is paid off, that's I think what they're talking about is what I mentioned a few moments ago, which is where you're paying on an unsecured note and you've satisfied that note. What they're saying to you is if you default on that note, guess what? It's going to be very difficult to qualify for another mortgage.
Right. And then if you go for an FHA mortgage after a short sale, there's no waiting period as long as the mortgage payments have been made on time in the last 12 months.
And let me also add something to this, and for those of the listeners who thought that they were going to be able to go out and get a land contract, we now have an issue under the federal law called the SAFE Act, which is intended to apply to originators and servicers of mortgage loans, and the feds just held that a land contract falls within the definition of a mortgage loan. So we're in the process of trying to figure out exactly how that's going to impact sellers of their own homes, because it applies to 1 to 4 family residential properties, to figure out how that act, as implemented by the state of Michigan, is going to affect land contract sales. So stay tuned on that one. I'll have more information as the weeks progress here.
Okay, there's also no waiting period if the short sale had a hardship that qualified. So if you did a short sale simply because you're taking advantage of the market, my house isn't worth what it was, so I'm going to go buy the one down the street.
Right.
That's $20,000, and I have a $100,000 mortgage on my house.
Yeah.
That doesn't qualify as a hardship.
Right, but on the other hand, if you die, then you'll be able to qualify for a mortgage later on because it was obviously quite a hardship.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but actually, talking about disability, there are other circumstances that cause a hardship where you're unable to satisfy the loan. So that's a different category for purposes of qualifying for a future mortgage.
Not simply a loss of job.
I don't know that loss of job qualifies. Simple loss of job qualifies as a hardship under the standards, does it, Laura?
Jackie?
I don't know.
It could.
As far as I know, it's up to the lender that's offering the new loan.
All right.
She said, as far as she knows, it's up to the lender that's offering the loan.
My experience has been if you become seriously ill, disabled,
Right.
so that you're unable to work, not simply that your employer's terminated you. I don't know though. It might apply if it's simply unemployment. Losing a
And
job.
also to not have a waiting period, the deficiency, if you're not paying it back, the deficiency has to be released. If you're unable,
Yeah, do you think your listeners understand what that is? In other words, you can do a short sale where the lender agrees to release the lien on the property to allow the sale to go forward, but nothing happens to the deficiency. You still owe that deficiency, and if you haven't done a workout with the lender, that continues as an obligation on your credit report for time immemorial here.
and at one point people thought that the banks would sell those deficiencies to somebody, and that person that bought those deficiencies would start coming after people.
And they do. They do sell that.
Is there a
deficiency.
waiting period for that?
No, none.
So if I did a short sale and I had a $100,000 deficiency, 20
That's-
years from now I might get a knock on my door?
No, you got a statute of limitations. Statute of limitations on a mortgage loan, I think, is 10 years. However, now it's an unsecured note. Again, you're asking me a question out of the blue. It's probably going to be a 6-year statute of limitation that they can come after you. Again, I'd have to go back and check the specific statute.
Okay. And then if you didn't make your mortgage payments on time, you're going to have to wait 3 years for an FHA short sale. Loan modifications, we're running out of time, so a conventional with mortgage delinquencies will start a timeline of 4 years, and FHA you'll have to receive a permanent loan modification and have had to wait 12 months with on-time payments. So if you are beyond those points and you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years, you'll qualify for that $3,000 money that's out there. So call me at 780-3800. Also, I have a new listing.
Before you do that, the bottom line of what you just talked about, too, is the rental market has increased, whether it's dramatically, but certainly significantly. And so those people who are, I have clients who are buying investment properties for purposes of rental, and lots of applications. One of the difficulties, of course, is making certain that the renters qualify.
Yeah. I just listed the Bon-Ton Room on Wildwood, 3017 Wildwood Avenue. It's 5,200 square feet, zoned C2. Great. I mean, that building is awesome on the inside. It's just really clean. $275,000. Great opportunity for someone who wants to have nice space. I mean, it's a really nice building. So call me, 780-3800.
It's a big office.
Neighborhood meeting.
You could.
Don't forget about your neighborhood meeting.
Oh, and I have a neighborhood meeting. I have voices talking.
Next Thursday.
Next Thursday, the 28th, 6 p.m. at 755 West Franklin, which is the southeast corner of Franklin and West Avenue.
What's the meeting for?
4th Ward City Council.
But what are you doing at the meeting?
We're going to talk about
Potholes in the street?
the snow plowing that's in the temporary,
A lot of them.
the medical marijuana, the garbage, non-owner
So
occupied.
you
We'll
encourage all
talk
your
about
constituents to come out and voice their
absolutely.
opinions, right?
You can even come.
I may.
6 o'clock next
6
Thursday.
o'clock next Thursday.
Bill,
Yeah.
did you see Hoarders or no?
He
know,
did. He saw a little bit of it.
I saw like 30 seconds.
I said, "Get in here, it's mine."
Yeah, she called me in. I tell you what, it's just amazing.
It's just remarkable.
Yeah, yeah.
What a great show.
Well, and they had at that one they had clean hoarders and dirty hoarders.
Oh, what's the difference?
Well, but then on the news, since I saw you last, they also had somebody had a fire in their house, and the firemen could not get into the house,
Right.
because of all of the garbage and stuff that was around. Yeah.
I wonder if that'd be toxic if it burned.
Yeah, some of it would be. Yeah,
Yikes.
but the hoarder show that
Wouldn't make any difference.
the hoarder show that I saw was the one where the guy collected like everything. I mean, he just collected everything, and he couldn't part
Couldn't
with
part
a
with-
single item. He
That's-
said, "That's my life."
Usually the case every week. Hey, we'll see you next week.
That's why they're hoarders.